What can I say about Mother that hasn't been said already? Frankly, I don't think I can. You either love this art house style metaphor about life, religion, and the subversion of the human condition, or loathed at this pretentious piece of film that crossed the line multiple times for the sake of shock value. However, I found myself somewhere in the middle, where I enjoyed the aesthetic and mystery of the film, but midway through as the movie went on, I found myself asking, why am I watching this? I actually found myself asking the same question at the midpoint of another film recently. Silence. In both cases, upon leaving the theater, I was disgruntled and annoyed as I tried to wrap my head around what I had just watched. As I contemplated, one of these films hit me like a train, where it clicked and everything I had just watched suddenly made sense. Thus, I want to take a look at these films and answer the million-dollar question. When it comes to art house filmmaking, what's the point? Before we can answer the million-dollar question, we have to answer a more basic one. What is art house filmmaking? The simple answer is filmmaking that isn't exactly mainstream, which sounds pretentious in of itself. Let me put it another way. Art house filmmaking is the opposite of blockbuster filmmaking, where you go into a film looking to think, as opposed to when you go into a film looking to turn your brain off. Does that mean these types of films can't be one and the same? Well, look no further than Christopher Nolan, who attempted to meld these two genres together with his films like Inception and more so in Interstellar. The results surely warranted a mixed response, which may be because art house films are often harder to sell due to either their experimental nature or lack of narrative structure to a wide audience when compared to popcorn flicks. Perhaps the most recognizable art house filmmaker to date is David Lynch, whose films have become famous for not making sense. But in his defense, sometimes life doesn't make sense, and his films follow suit. It's his goal to translate an idea or a theme and put that on screen. The same can be said for films like Terrence Malick's Tree of Life and Richard Linklater's Boyhood, that look at life as a series of events rather than a narrative story. Art house filmmaking is extremely hard to judge because it relies so heavily on emotion and personal preference, which is impossible to quantify. So that leads us to the answer to my original question. What's the point of art house filmmaking?
Why, Mr. Anderson? Why? Why?
It's to make us feel. But how the film makes us feel can be completely different from one person to another. Thus, as I look at Mother and Silence, keep in mind these are my thoughts, and yours may be completely different, which is more so apparent, especially in this case. So feel free to debate in the comments below. Also keep in mind there will be spoilers ahead, so let's take the red pill and see how far this rabbit hole goes. Writer-director Darren Aronofsky was in a fit of rage at the state of the world, where he sat down one weekend and wrote to his heart's content, and we got Mother, for better or worse. Aronofsky's style is very present in this film, that we've also seen in his other works like The Fountain, The Wrestler, and Black Swan, but the film that bears the closest resemblance to Mother has to be Requiem for a Dream. Both Mother and Requiem create an uncomfortable and unnerving viewing experience. But what separates these two pictures is the message. One is an unrelenting tale of the dangers of drug abuse, and the other is about how humanity is bad, God is a pompous writer longing for attention, and we people are destroying Mother Nature. Notice how though the films are similar in tone, yet have two very different messages. Requiem is a warning, and on my first viewing, the takeaway wasn't exactly anger or frustration, but rather the thought of, I will never do drugs again. A film that is so stark and dour actually left me with a clear, positive message, and that's why I consider Requiem for a Dream a great film, and Mother not so much. Mother starts with such an aura of mystery that makes the film so engrossing, but when you start to pick up on the religious imagery, the film starts to waver. Not to say having religious imagery is a bad thing. Take the character of Superman himself, who's essentially a Christ metaphor, and Zack Snyder sure as hell won't let you forget it. The reason all these allegories don't hit as hard as Aronofsky may have thought could be summed up in one word. Why? I get it, it's Adam and Eve, it's Cain and Abel, it's the body of Christ, but again, what's the point? What is this all leading to? The message that the film leaves you with is a feeling of hopelessness and that humanity is destroying the earth. Now, I believe Mother could have been more effective if he left us on a more positive note, such as a call to action for change. but instead the cynical ending makes for an unfulfilling experience and makes for the film's biggest blunder. Now let's take a look at another art house style film surrounding religion and see how one of the world's greatest directors handles the similar subject matter. Martin Scorsese surely has his own style, with his films like Goodfellas, The Departed, and The Wolf of Wall Street, but one wouldn't exactly consider him an art house filmmaker. I suppose the closest he's ever gone to that style would be Taxi Driver, a much quieter and more thought-provoking film than his other works, until that brutal third act that hosts the violence we've come to expect. Silence is a much different film that fans of his work may not recognize, but is still a great film nonetheless. Silence is similar to Mother in that once the film gets going, it's a relenting experience that is joyless and painful to watch. When I left the theater on my first viewing, I walked out more disgusted than I did after Mother. I felt as if Scorsese made me watch a snuff film, where people are getting tortured and killed because of their faith. After watching this literal torment, it appears that Andrew Garfield's father Rodriguez has joined his fallen mentor and rejected his faith to live a longer life in feudal Japan. If Scorsese's message was to reject your religion for the sake of living, that would have led to an even more somber ending to an already harrowing film. However, as he achieved in the final scene of Shutter Island, Liam Neeson's Father Fieri shows an ever so subtle glimpse of faith that shines the true message of the film, that they can make you do whatever they want you to, but they can never take away how you feel. In other words, people can tell you to oppose your beliefs and make you renounce them, but they can't take away that belief that's inside you. Art house filmmaking is about creating a feeling, and in both these cases, Aronofsky and Scorsese succeeded in their desired audience reaction. It's clear that Mother is a wake-up call for society, and Silence is about the power of belief. They are very clear points, but I believe that Silence leaves a more lasting effect, because in a very subtle manner it instills hope, where Mother instills blame and anger in a not-so-subtle way. One is a well-thought-out and thought-provoking tale, and the other is a first draft that could have been something much more had Aronofsky given his thought process a little more time to marinate. But regardless of how I relate to these films, or how they affect you, at the end of the day, the truly great thing about the medium of film is that it will undoubtedly make you feel. So those are my thoughts on Mother and Silence. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know down in the comments below. Be sure to tune in next time, where I have a strange feeling that my next video may have something to do with 80s nostalgia, but what do I know, I just write the scripts. Be sure to click here to see my last video called September in a Nutshell, where I took a look at all the films I saw that past month and gave my thoughts on those films in just 30 seconds. And be sure to click over here to see my last video essay on why it isn't as scary as you may think. Also, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and check out my social media links down in the description below. Until next time, don't forget to watch the movies.